And we're back. This is the Great Classic Rock Debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul with zero qualifications.
And I'm Steve.
And we talk anything and everything classic rock. We try to keep it interesting. We try to have fun. And hopefully, if you're watching, you will agree with that. If you happen to be watching at this moment, please like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to check out our sister channel, The Great Classic Movie Debate. Now, when we say we talk anything and everything classic rock, we mean it. So in other words, even if you got a classic rock artist from, 100 years ago, whatever, they make a new album, we're going to talk about it. And it just so happens that the Rolling Stones released a new album within the last week or two. I don't know the date. And we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. However, it just so happens that Steve attended a Guns N' Roses concert this week. And so before we get too far into anything else, we would like to hear all about the experience at the Guns N' Roses concert and what Steve's opinion and feelings were about that. So Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you and you give it to us.
All right. So I saw them. This is the kind of the end of this tour here in Denver. And I just want to say it was phenomenal. It blew my expectations. This is the third time I've seen them since they kind of reunited.
Let me ask a question real quick, because you just mentioned it, reunited. This wasn't just the Axl Rose show, right? I mean, there were more. No. Okay, who was there?
It's Axl, Slash, and Duff. So those are the three original members.
Right. Okay, good.
And so three of the five. And to me, what really makes the band that gives it that sound is Slash and Duff. And without having kind of those two people in the band, and obviously Axl, it just isn't the same. And so, they played for 3 hours and 21 minutes. And these guys are all like 60 years old. And, they played songs from every one of their albums. And they have like 3 new songs. And I would say, Axl has a history, at least back in the day, of being not so friendly to the fans and kind of just not feeling like he wanted to be there. But watching him sing, and he played the piano on a couple of songs like November Rain.
Right.
It felt like he was having the time of his life, and he really enjoyed the crowd and just really fed off the excitement from the crowd. It was, I don't know if it was sold out, but it was, I didn't see really too many empty seats. So there were probably a handful, but for 60 years old to play for over close to 3.5 hours.
Right.
It was phenomenal. And, they played, I'm looking at the set list here, 32 songs.
Wow.
That's a lot of songs.
Yeah. I mean, they played all the major hits from kind of.
They had to.
Yeah.
Did they play One in a Million?
They did not play One in a Million.
I'm joking.
But I will say, though, I'm going to just run through the set list real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wow, okay.
It's So Easy. That's kind of been their main opener for a while now. Bad Obsession, which is one of my favorite songs. And I think that's a rarity that they play live off of Use Your Illusion 1.
Yeah.
For Paul, they played Chinese Democracy.
Yes.
And one of my favorite songs, Pretty Tied Up, with the sitar on that. And I'll just say Slash was amazing. I mean, I don't think he missed a note the entire night. And I laugh because Slash probably played about 7 or 8 different guitars, and he pulled out the double neck on a few songs. So it was pretty impressive. And I would say Axl probably had more wardrobe changes than you would see in a Madonna show.
Really? How long or short was his hair?
It was short.
Okay.
Not the long hair, and he's not the thin Axl from that we
Right.
all remember.
Right.
They were all wearing leather pants, and they could probably ditch that at this age. But Slither, which is a great Velvet Revolver song.
Wow.
That's awesome live.
Wow.
They played one of their newer songs that they've released over the past couple of years, Hard School, which I'm not a big fan of. It's an okay song. It's more of I think it's got a punk edge to it. It's not really a classic, doesn't have really the classic GNR song or sound. Mr. Brownstone, Welcome to the Jungle, Reckless Life from Lies, which not one of my favorite GNR songs, but then Absurd, which is the newest, I think their newest song, at least, or actually they have another song, Perhaps, which is their newest song. Absurd came out, I think, within the last year or two. For those of you who don't know, GNR over the past couple of years, they've released kind of one song per year that they've recorded. So they haven't done a full album. You Could Be Mine, then Double Talk and Jive, Shadow of Your Love, which was recorded off for the Appetite record, but was left off for some strange reason. And they released that about 5 years ago. And that does sound, I mean, you can tell that is an Appetite song. And that would have been a hit for them had they released it when that album came out. So first time I had heard it live. And then Perhaps, which I just mentioned, Estranged, which might be my favorite GNR song. I love that. I love that song. I will say for the first 4 songs, Axl was really on key. Like he was hitting the high notes, and then he started to lose his voice. Better than the last time I saw him. He couldn't really hit the high notes after that, but if he stayed away from the high notes, he hit everything. And then they played Down on the Farm, which is off the Spaghetti Incident. So that was
I forgot who originally wrote. I have to look that up. Who originally wrote that?
It was a UK Subs cover.
Okay, I knew they didn't write it. I mean, because remember the album he sings in British. It's the only album where he fakes a British accent and sings it. Oh, you saw him. Go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Then Paul's favorite song, Live and Let Die. It's great live.
I love the song. I just don't like the Kenny, the Paul McCartney. It's like a flute. What's the solo instrument in that song?
I'm not sure, but it could be a flute.
It's a horn, I think.
Yeah, whatever it is, and they try to duplicate with the guitar. It just doesn't work.
That song rocks live for both Paul McCartney and Guns N' Roses. Every time you see Paul McCartney play it,
of course, Paul McCartney.
There's a lot of pyro in that.
I don't hate the Guns N' Roses version, but at the same time, for me, it was just an unnecessary remake. I think the original is great and should be left alone.
I love it. So, but yeah, to each their own. So,
fair enough. Yeah.
Rocket Queen, which has always got a real long kind of guitar breakdown in it at the beginning and kind of in the middle.
Was Tracy Lords there to do the background noises?
No, she was not.
Okay, dang it. All right.
No. TVI.
That's a Stooges song.
Which is a Stooges song, yeah. And so they've played that every time I've seen them. Duff has covered that song. He sung on that song every time I've seen him.
I gotta tell my wife that'll make her night.
Then Anything Goes, Civil War, and then Slash has a really awesome guitar solo. And I know, Paul, you guys aren't big into guitar solos. This goes on for about 7 minutes. It's phenomenal, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily a guitar solo because the rhythm section is playing the entire time. And we just
lose Paul?
We just lost Paul for a couple of seconds.
All right,
so the guitar solo, it was kind of a rock and roll, kind of 50s, 60s, early 60s vibe with Slash. It was really cool. And then it goes into Sweet Child of Mine, November Rain, This I Love. And I think that's off of the Chinese Democracy. And then I skipped over one, Prostitute, which is also off of Chinese Democracy.
Okay.
Yesterday's Knocking on Heaven's Door, which I love because that's just a great live song.
Okay.
Night Train. And so we're at 29 songs at that point.
Wow.
And then we have 3 encores.
Okay.
Coma, which is again another 8-minute song.
Right.
And then Patience, and followed up with Paradise City to close out the set.
Okay.
So
all right.
Phenomenal to me.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they didn't miss. There's nothing that they missed. If you are a Guns N' Roses fan and you attended that concert, you're not leaving there going, hey, they forgot to play such and such. They covered everything.
Yeah. And the tickets were kind of pricey, but I had really good seats.
Okay.
it was about 225 is what I paid, but I was like in the 5th row behind the pit. And unfortunately, I pretty much had to stand the entire show. So I
Okay.
should have just opted to get to stand in the pit. So I could have gotten a little closer to the stage.
Right.
But I felt like, I don't feel like I was ripped off at all. I mean, I felt like I got my money's worth.
Okay.
You're going to play for 3.5 hours. I mean, and 60 years old, like you got your money's worth.
There's
I will
not much
say-
more they could do to deliver, based upon what you've told us. That set list and over 3 hours, there's not much more a band can do to make you feel like they want you to get your money's worth.
Yeah,
Is there
I
any
will say
band that
this.
plays that long now? I never.
No, like they had an opener, which is a great artist by the name of, I think he goes by Aaron, but it's Aaron Jones, Ayron.
Yeah, you sent it to me. That's cool.
Great. He's a really good hard rock artist from Seattle. They played for about 30 minutes, but they're kind of at the point like Paul McCartney. When you see him, they don't have an opener. They really don't need one,
What's
especially.
the point?
Yeah. And the show started at like 7:40.
Oh, wow.
Like that's unheard of. You go back into, the late 80s, early 90s where Axl was notorious for going on stage at like midnight or something.
Yep.
Right.
The fans
Yeah,
would
that's the
wait.
norm. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great because it's like everybody's got, we're all adults. We all got responsibilities. So,
Yeah.
I don't want to stay out till 2 a.m. I
Well,
will
let me,
say this.
let me make a quick comment because you talked about Axl. His vibe was he seemed to be enjoying himself. And over the years, I've seen him a number of times in interviews in which he seems angry and I don't know, unhappy.
Yeah.
You would think a guy who's reached the pinnacle of the rock universe like that would have nothing to be angry about, but it seems like an angry. So I don't know if that's because of personal issues or drugs or alcohol or the band all hating each. I don't know what it is, but when you see it, if you're a fan of this artist and this band, you just hate to see it. And you say, wow, I hope that whatever his personal demons are, whatever, he gets that worked out and resolved and comes out better on the other side. So when you talk about he seemed to be enjoying himself and into it, Matt's really makes me feel good. It's very reassuring because I want those guys to do well. I was fans, and they were making such great music, I guess 35 years ago or whatever, and played such an important role in the rock universe, at least during that period of time. So I just want to see them live out the final years of their rock life, whatever, and their personal life in a good place. So I'm very happy to see that.
Yeah, especially this was like one of the last shows on the tour. A lot of times bands, they get sick of each other and fights start. So to see them kind of at the top of their game at the end of the tour was really phenomenal. I do have one kind of funny anecdote.
Tell us.
From the crowd.
Okay.
So there were a couple of kids, they were 24 years old because I asked them how old they were. And they were behind me and they were talking. And the one kid said to his friend, there's only one really old band that I really like. And maybe you've heard of them. They're called Kiss.
That's great.
I turned around and I was like, oh man, really old, huh? I was like, that's where you're going to go.
Yeah. And, by the way, on a completely unrelated side note, but Steve, you're wearing that jacket there with the Guns N' Roses. About 2 weeks ago, I'm in the gym, Planet Fitness, working out, and it's probably a Saturday or Sunday. There's a couple of, I'm going to guess 15. These guys were, they weren't kids, but they were not adults either. Somebody guessed 15. And one was wearing a Guns N' Roses t-shirt and the other was wearing a Van Halen t-shirt. And I was like, oh my God, there is hope for this generation. Wow. Yes. Wow.
But then if you ask them, their songs. But if you ask them any of their songs, they go, didn't they do that song, Vogue, right?
That's possible. You never know. So maybe the shirts were a Christmas gift. I don't know. But if you're 15, and you're wearing that, something good is going on.
Yeah. I love the show so much. Yeah, I did buy the sweatshirt at the show. It was $100, but for
oh my God.
The thing is when you're middle aged like us, they can charge a premium because we have more disposable income than,
Right,
than
right.
the teenagers. So,
Right.
but I loved it. So if you, next time they go on tour, I
Yeah.
highly recommend anybody watching the show,
Well,
go
when they
check them out.
Well, before they reformed, when they had Buckethead and Bumblefoot, like LA was like $190. This is 12, 14 years ago, and I was like, God, I just don't know. And what if they're terrible and I wasted a whole, So it's good to hear, that you went and took one for the team. That's a joke, but yeah.
Well, you and I saw Slash together
Yeah.
probably about, I don't know, 2015 maybe.
Yeah.
2014 when you were out in Colorado, and
Yeah. No, I like
it was great then.
Miles Kennedy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw Guns N' Roses. They did New Year's at Joe Robbie Stadium, 94, I think. And they started.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I heard someone that I knew, and they said, yeah, it's in their contract. If they don't start within 10 minutes of the new year, they don't get paid.
Wow.
And they're like, okay, this is the 50,000 people in there, so they're that's
Right.
a big check.
Right.
Yeah. I was not lucky enough to see them, in their prime in the late 80s, early 90s. I was too young, but I couldn't be, as a fan, I could not have been happier for the performance they put on. So thank you. If you guys ever see this show, Axl and Slash and Duff, thank you so much. It was great. So
It's funny 'cause I just saw Morrissey 2 Sunday nights ago, the Smiths.
Right.
He played for an hour and 12 minutes.
Wow.
And you're like, what a slap in the face, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's short change. I know you paid good money for those tickets too.
We saw Depeche Mode. They played for over 2.5 hours. They were kicking ass. And
the bands from yesteryear, they should do that.
Yeah.
You've been their fan for decades.
They've got a lot of hits.
Something extra.
Depeche Mode is like, they could play for 5 hours and not get what same with the Smiths and Morrissey, but nope, want to play an hour and 12 minutes. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'd be curious to know, like, if that's their kind of standard set list or time, because sometimes things happen, and I've been at shows before where somebody's gotten sick or injured or something happens, Well,
in LA of all places, like I think I've told y'all, like if you go to the Greek Theater, it's in the Hollywood neighborhood, and there's $1 million houses within 500 yards of it. So I was talking to, this is not bullcrap, I talked to Glenn Danzig about this one day. He goes, yeah, they have a guy from the city of LA, and he's by the main power switch. And at 11 p.m., at the strike of 11, boom, they shut off the power. Because that thing was built, and that was part of the deal. So he got a guy from LA. If you go anywhere on the Strip, I think they have to stop playing at 11 on the Sunset Strip. They can't have the live music. It's a city ordinance.
Really? In the indoor clubs?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, that's why a lot of bands, you go there and they have to be, if there's 3 bands, okay, like Steve just said, they start at 7:30, 3 bands, hour and 5 minutes each, because they have to do that. So it's the only way to fit the 11 o'clock window.
Yeah. I was curious about that. The security guard was right next to me most of the show. And I was talking to him before they came on. If I was like, do you guys have to be out of here at 11? He said, no. He's like, we don't have that because we're an indoor arena. But you're right. A lot of the outdoor amphitheaters, not just in LA, but there are places where, there's hard 11 o'clock curfew. Yeah,
if there's a residential area near it, and it's like I could hear. I'm about maybe a nautical mile from my high school, and I can hear the drums of the band clear as day from my house. That's a mile away. So can you imagine?
Same
Guns
here.
N' Roses?
I live exactly a mile away from our high school as well, and we can hear the high school band out there.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, guys, let's shift gears for whatever time we have remaining. Yeah. And let's talk about this new album from the Rolling Stones, which is called Hackney Diamonds. And by the way, these guys, Mick is 80, and I think Keith Richards is 79. Steve, you mentioned for these guys in Guns N' Roses to be out there doing this at 60. I'm like, okay, the Stones are doing it at 80, which is really amazing. Okay, would any one of you guys like to start off as far as I've listened to it, and go ahead, Paul.
And then that way Steve can just take it and run, because I'm just, based on Steve's recommendation, I saw that video. It's called Angry, or You're Angry, or what's it called?
Angry.
Steve?
Yes, Angry.
That is the coolest video I think I've seen in a long time. Have you seen it, Kenny?
I have not seen the video,
They're in a,
but
they're
but
driving-
I'm very familiar with the song.
It's a guy and a girl and a hot girl, of course, on a convertible, and they're driving up and down the Sunset Strip, and the camera is like at the back of the car, like where the trunk would be, and the camera's seeing this hot chick, and as they're going down the strip, they see these billboards, and all the billboards are the videos of the Rolling Stones, some for the video of this song, and others where they've mixed in the guitar. It's really cool. It's got the Stones over the years. I was like, I cannot believe someone hadn't thought of this idea first. Have you seen that video, Steve?
I have not.
It is one of the top 20 videos of all time.
Huh.
And it's I'm like,
Okay, the
song was
moment
good.
this show ends, I'm going to pull it up and watch it.
Yeah.
The song is good. I was like, wow, these sound pretty damn good. So that's the end of me talking. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on any of the rest of the album?
I haven't heard it yet. I just heard
Oh,
that
okay.
video, and I just want to say rave about it.
Fair enough. I sent right before we started the show. I sent an email. Okay, so you guys both can download or listen to it. So I've only listened to it over the past couple of days, but I have a pretty strong impression of how I feel about it. Steve, you want to throw anything in or?
No, go ahead, because I've only had a chance to listen to about 3 or 4 songs. So
Okay. Well, listen, I'll tell you what, here's what we'll do. Because since we're already way past the halfway mark, we'll just sort of get started on this one tonight. We'll go into it more next time. So here was my feelings about it. Like, first of all, just my general commentary about the album as a whole. I give it 2 thumbs up, and I thought it was really good. I don't think it's one of their top 5 albums ever. I don't want to be hyperbolic or whatever, but I thought it was very good. And, we mentioned in the last week or two how the great bands really don't even have weak tracks. They just have hits that aren't as good as other hits, but they really don't have weak tracks.
Yeah.
And that was one of my thoughts about this. The third track, which was called Depending on You, for me, it didn't resonate. So for me, it was probably one of the weaker songs. And I thought it was odd that they placed it at number 3. However, in reading through reviews, quite a few said best track on the album right there. So you guys, this is another thing we've talked about. Sometimes songs they're instantly accessible. Like the first time you hear it, it clicks, you like it right away. And this other song, you go, that one doesn't. But then several weeks later, you've heard it more. It's a more complex song, so you don't digest it quite as quickly. But then you like that one. I think they use the word grower because it grows on you, right? So the fact that I've only had the last day or two to listen to this, I'm well aware that some of the songs that may not be instant favorites can grow on me, change my mind about them. So this is just sort of the short-term reaction. But yeah, I thought Angry was such a strong opening track, and it has what I'm going to call start me up vibes to it. All right. Probably not quite as good a song, but pretty close. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if Start Me Up is a 10, and I think it is, this is an 8.5 or 9. That's a very good song. All right. Now, the other song that I thought sort of jumped out at me was the 5th track called Whole Wide World. Did either one of you guys listen to that one?
No, I have.
Yes, I've heard that one. Yeah.
Okay. Again, I just thought it was instantly catchy, and I found myself singing along with it on the very first listen, and I liked it right away. In fact, I think at this point in time, if I have to name a favorite on the entire album, it's that one. But there's something familiar about it, and I don't know if it's familiar in the sense that it reminds me of an earlier Stone song, or is it just another song completely that it reminds me of? But it reminds me of something. And it's possible that I may suddenly realize, oh, wait a second, that sounds like this other song, so I don't like it as much now. So I don't know, that could happen. But at least for now, I think that's a good song and very catchy, good, solid rock song. The track, the one with Lady Gaga, I get the name of it now because I'm going to mess it up.
Sweet Sounds of Heaven.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that's a really strong song. I think I would probably like it better if it was 5 minutes instead of 7.5.
Ooh.
But I think it's a strong song, and they mix a lot of. It's got well, it's the Stones with Lady Gaga with Stevie Wonder, and they do sort of a gospel type of thing, and it really works well. So that one has to grow on you a little bit. First listen, I thought, it's not that great, but after a few more listens, I said, okay, really, really good song. Oh, and I should also add that the final track on the album is Rolling Stone Blues. Now, the version of the album that I sent both of you guys is the Japanese edition, which has an extra track on it called Living in a Ghost Town. We'll ignore that one for now. But I really thought it was a great choice for the Stones to put Rolling Stone Blues as the final track. Of course, that's the Muddy Waters song that they named their band after. So when they add it to the very end of their album, it's clearly done in homage and out of respect for Muddy Waters. So I thought it was a nice touch. And they do a really, really bluesy, gritty version of it. They're not doing like a blasting rock version of the song. They do it in at least what strikes me as trying to emulate that original Muddy Waters version. And I just think it's a great version of a old time blues song. So my thoughts.
Did you guys see that? I mean, I mentioned this, and just if I'm repeating, it was on Netflix. There's a thing about Keith Richards, and it's like it was made in the last 2 or 3 years, and it shows him meeting when they first met Muddy Waters. They show the original, and then he's meeting Muddy Waters later, and it's just like, oh my god! I mean, that guy. They were talking about how Muddy Waters was like, when he first meets Muddy Waters, he's hanging lights in the studio. This place in Chicago, I forget the name of the studio, the record company in Chicago. And he goes, "Oh, hey, Keith." And he's like, "Hey," and he goes, "Oh, that's Muddy Waters working. Like, why is he doing that?" I guess he was bored. But so it was like, really, it was such a cool thing on Keith Richards. It's worth stopping what you're doing and going back and watching it.
All right.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned this before. There's an old concert video. You could buy it off of Amazon or DVD, and the soundtrack of the Stones playing at a Muddy Waters club. Actually, Muddy Waters is performing. The Stones happen to be on tour. This is like 1980. Wow. And Muddy Waters calls them up on the stage one by one.
Oh,
and they
my
were
God. How awesome is
like,
that?
He's like, "Hey, Keith, come on up." And Keith Richards is sitting there just smoking a cigarette, drinking. And then he's like,
"Of course.
You want me to come up on stage with you?" It was like, he was so honored. And then the rest of the members came up, and it's such a piece of history. It's awesome.
That's good stuff.
But when you see this show on, they weren't used. These black performers were not used to having white people come and sit down and engage them as equals. And then, like Steve said, in a reverential type of way,
right?
Because these guys are British, and it's a different dynamic going on, and like they're like, and we talked about this before. Like the Stones were instrumental in getting them like on the television and stuff, and getting them more notoriety. So
I know you guys know this, but for our audience members, a lot of the classic British rock bands, they're all blues based. They all worshipped the blues artists, you know, from the United States. So I do think it's funny that the term Hackney Diamonds, I learned where that actually comes from.
Where? I don't get it.
So in London, there is a neighborhood that's called Hackney, and it's pretty rough. And so like every weekend morning, there would be glass out on the street from a fight occurring, or there's a robbery in one of the jewelry stores. And so they called it Hackney Diamonds, broken glass.
Broken glass. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
How cool.
And got me a necklace made of Hackney Diamonds, you see. Oh, sorry. I miss about the Stones is like in the 70s and the 80s when he would do songs, Mick Jagger, and in the middle of the song, he just starts. It's not a rap, but it's us talking like, you remember that song "Too Much Blood"? And he's talking about, I met my girlfriend. We could cut her head off. I want to see something more romantic. Like Officer and Gentleman. Like
Yeah.
the stuff when he's talking about, it's not even
It's
really
like just like a monologue in the middle of a song.
Yeah.
Or he's like talking about New York. He goes, I've got rats on the west side, bed bugs uptown. This town's in tatters. He's just like, it's just like, oh, I missed that.
Kind of
Right.
like Rapture from Blondie.
It is kind of like Rapture. No, it is. That's a good point, Steve.
Okay, listen, we got our
warning?
warning. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I want to make this final comment. We're talking about Mick. I thought his voice sounded good. I think it would be an exaggeration to say, because people love to say these kind of things, that he sounded just as good as he did in the 70s. So I think that would be a bit over the top. But to be 80 years old, there's a lot of well-known vocalists who at the age of mid 50s or 60, there's a clear decline in their voice. And I'm not knocking them for that, but that's just a part of getting older. And I think that Mick really sounds good on this. I don't think anybody will listen to this and react with, wow, you can tell he's lost his vocal abilities. I don't think so at all. I thought it was a really strong performance from him. So the whole album, but just noteworthy that the vocals are that strong.
For me, just final point. If you like Guns N' Roses, Duff McKagan had a solo record, 2019, that is really good, and I think you guys might enjoy it. It was produced by Shooter Jennings, who's the son of Waylon Jennings. But it's a little bit country, it's a little bit rock, but he's got some really strong songs on there. The album is called Tenderness. And their Tenderness is the title track, really good. Last September is another really heartfelt kind of a ballad, and the song Chip Away. And those are really 3 strong tracks from that album. But I would encourage, I think you guys would like it. So
we got an album before that too. I forgot what it's called.
He did, yeah. He's had a couple.
He's had a few solo records. He's got a new one out actually now, but I don't think it's as good as this the one as Chip Away, or Tenderness is the name of the album. But.
Okay. Do you guys have any nominations for our classic rock playlist?
Since Steve brought up Rapture, if you guys want to see something funny, I mean, just hilarious, it's Soulja Boy doing a 1.5-minute version of Rapture from The Boys. Kenny, it is the funniest thing you ever see. He's like, well, let's go there, woo.
Where would you see this, on YouTube?
Yeah, it's, oh my God. I was like, they cannot be doing this. Yeah, he's up there. It's like he's a superhero, and he's so full of himself. Like they get him up there to sing Rapture, and he's like totally campy. It's ridiculous, but he's so cocky and arrogant when it's just hilarious. You're like, oh my God. I just saw it the other day, like the extended version, like 1.5 minutes.
Okay.
It's just like your mind is like, what in the hell is going on here?
All right.
You've seen it, Steve, right?
I have not seen that. No.
Oh, he does it in the 3rd season, right?
I don't remember it. So.
Oh, he does it. But go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Steve. Kenny.
All right. Well, listen, Steve. Since you saw Guns N' Roses, if you want to nominate anything from Guns N' Roses that is, we usually try to use the 15-year rule. It has to be 15 years or older, whatever. You don't have to apply that tonight, because I'm going to go ahead and nominate from the Rolling Stones album, either one or both, Angry and Whole Wide World. So we've already mentioned those two, but if my classic rock station, local classic rock station, would play either one of those songs, oh my God, would I feel blessed, instead of playing Paradise City over and over and over again. But anyway, so there you go. You got anything? What do you got for Guns N' Roses?
Well, for me, back in 2018, they released the 30th anniversary of Appetite, and so there's 2 unreleased tracks on there.
Okay.
There are demo tracks of November Rain, which is probably my 2nd favorite Guns N' Roses song, and one is entirely acoustic, and one is just Axl on the piano. Those songs were intended to be released with Appetite, but they didn't have a way to finish it. And you can, it's just interesting listening to those songs. I'm glad they waited to release it on the Use Your Illusion album.
I'm glad they waited too. I would have waited another 5 years to make it.
Oh, no. Why do you hate that song?
I don't know, because girl go, oh my God,
Slash apparently was almost killed in the making of that music video by one of the helicopter blades. because it's an
Oh,
iconic
wow.
solo. He's out there
Yeah.
playing in front of a church. I think it's in New Mexico. And he
Yeah.
said, yeah, they came real close to him.
Yeah, Vic
Yeah.
Morrow should have said, "Hey, stay on the helicopter, hey."
Right, right. Exactly. Okay, we're going to wrap it up then for this week. That is the great classic rock debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul.
I'm Steve.
And if you happen to be watching right now, please like, comment, and subscribe. We will love you for that. Don't forget to check out our sister channel, The Great Classic Movie Debate. And until we meet again, we will see you next time.